There are two and two here. So. Okay, we are live on YouTube. Stephanie, I'll turn it over to you.
You're recording?
Yes, we're recording.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, June 2nd, and this is a meeting of the Zoning and Land Use Committee. I am Stephanie Simone Mahaney, the chair, and we are reconvening tonight to discuss the rezoning the proposed rezoning at 464 Ovington Avenue with applicant Issa Massoud and represented by Richard Lobel. Richard, I know you have your team here, and I believe you're ready to present again to us this evening, if you would like to begin.
Sure. Thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. Once again, Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel, and Issa Massoud is here as well as the rest of the applicant team. Next slide, please. So to refresh everyone's memory from the May 14th meeting, we are proposing a zoning map amendment, a rezoning to change an existing R3X to an R6A. This would primarily involve three sites, particularly the development site, which is the one which would basically spur new development on the site, as well as some ancillary areas on other sites and de minimis areas on others. A rezoning would be accompanied by a zoning text amendment to allow for mandatory inclusionary housing or required affordability. So what's changed? Issa had an opportunity to meet with his adjacent neighbors as we discussed at the last meeting. And so there's been a modification to the design, which we'll discuss. I'll discuss briefly, and then George is able to discuss with more specificity. But basically, our building, which was 8 stories and 36,000 square feet, was reduced to 35,000 square feet. And the number of dwelling units remained the same at 40, but there was an increase in the number of 2-bedroom units out of that 40 from 4 to 8, understanding the preference for larger unit sizes. In addition, as was previously discussed, and with the prior iteration of the application, we did have and have submitted to the community board letters of recommendation from the organizations which are seen on the screen. The next slide really kind of tells a story of the discussion since that May 14th meeting, which is that Issa met with neighbors at 460 Ovington and revised the proposal to address their concerns. So this building, as you could see on the left in the original proposal, was built on the lot line. And there was concern, particularly with regards to that light well on the eastern portion of the Lot 35 building. And so as was kind of discussed and we thought we may be able to do this, we have been able to add a light well and modify our building as well to allow for inner court, which address concerns regarding light and air. This basically allows for, as Amanda's highlighting, a courtyard within our building, which now allows for light and air to reach a greater number of units, and in fact reach the units on the light well on the adjacent building. So again, as far as the changes to the building, we note that the building got somewhat deeper in order to accommodate additional floor area at the rear. But having said that, I understand, and George can be more specific about this, that the rear yard is still, an ample rear yard in terms of distance from that rear lot line. So George can kind of address that. And then again, as I mentioned, the number of units remained at 40, but there was an increase in the number of 2-bedroom units. So now we have 11 studios, 21 1-bedrooms, and 8 2-bedroom units, making the project much more heavily favorable towards larger units, particularly given comments with regards to unit sizes and family sizes. The next several slides are the zoning map and area maps as were previously presented. Again, you can see the circled area with the existing R3X, the highlighted area both within the dotted lines, which is the area of the proposed rezoning, as well as in red, which is the development site. We note that under typical analysis, the building to the west of us would not redevelop, given that they're already built to a 3.6 FAR and the R6A permits for a 3.9. And the building to the east of us would not be considered a soft site given that the building was built in 2000 and there are rent regulated units there. So really the development here is projected to be solely at ESA's site. The next slide, the area map, again, just showing everyone the lay of the land. I'm sure everyone remembers the location of the site along Ovington between 4th and 5th Avenues. And then pictures of the site, which we presented at the prior meeting as well. George, I think if you just want to briefly just go to the plans and then which Amanda's running to right now. And then if you just want to kind of talk about the conversations that were had, the modifications that were made, and then the applicant team is happy to answer questions.
Thank you. So can we go to the next slide with the site plan? All right, so as Richard said, we added a light well. The front of our light well will align with the front of the neighboring building's light well so that we're not crowding their windows. Our light well is 30 feet wide. It's 30 feet square. And so it should provide plenty of light. And additionally, in the back portion past the light well, we're creating a 5-foot side yard. There are living rooms that we discussed with the board of the neighboring building that do have a window facing our side. They that's not their primary window. They have windows facing the rear yard, but we left 5 feet there additional as a side yard. So you have the courts and that separation towards the back. Doing this, the building pushed back a little further, but we still have just under 45 feet of a rear yard, which is a pretty large rear yard in New York. The current zoning code only requires 20 feet. And if we want to kind of scroll through the plans, those are the calculations. There's massing. If we keep going. So you see the plans. The first floor does not have the light well because we need to fit entry and the ramp. So the light well will begin at the second floor, which is a full floor of apartments. You have on the ground floor, we have 2 apartments in the back and then a corridor to the rear. The rear yard will be shared for the building outdoor space. And then so you see the light well in the plans. And if you keep going, this is the upper floor at the setback. We have a 10-foot setback on the 7th and 8th floors. And if you keep going, building elevations, and then we just go ahead to the 3D view. And then here you can see that there's a cutout. Due to it, there's a code requirement that the light well has to be 30 feet at above 75 feet. So our top floor, the light well just gets a little larger and we have a little setback there at the light well.
Thanks, George. So that's really kind of the summary of what we've done to date and the additional conversations and the resulting changes in the building. We're happy to be able to come up with a design which I think treats it in terms of the neighboring building with a little bit more sensitivity as was suggested by the committee. And with that, the entire applicant team is happy to answer questions.
Just to clarify before I turn it to the committee, this is still at 8 stories with the setback beginning after the 6th story?
Correct.
Okay, and there's no change in that setback or the upper floors, there's no change?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I'd like to turn it over to the committee for questions. Ralph?
I know you went through the floor plans pretty quickly. Can you tell us what the mix is now of apartments? Is it more 2 bedrooms, no studios?
Yes, it's
How does that all play out now?
it's 8 2-bedrooms, 21 1-bedrooms, and 11 studios.
And 11 studios? Right, 11 studios?
Yes, that's correct. 11 studios, 21 1-bedrooms, and 8 2-bedrooms.
Is demand very high for studios?
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, Issa, do you want to just address that for a minute?
Yes, sorry about that. So generally, generally in New York, since COVID, the demand for studios has risen. Many individuals are moving into New York City, so Brooklyn has become a sought after place for individuals going to either university or just are single.
You find that that demand outweighs the demand that comes from families for larger spaces and greater numbers of bedrooms?
I think I think the accommodation to increase the 2 bedrooms became more difficult adding the light well, and George, you can respond to that.
Yeah, we're trying to maintain a certain unit count here, and it's a little difficult. So in the redesign with the light, well, this is, kind of what made sense to fit was the 8 2 bedrooms with what we're going and balancing out the unit count.
Could you please remind me, I know that you've decreased the amount of the rear yard. Hadn't it been 65 feet? Now it's 45 feet. You've pushed out further to the rear yard. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and the problems, I know there are a lot of trade-offs, and what are the issues associated with pushing out further?
To go further, well, we're gonna run out of FAR. Of
Got
floor
it.
area. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other?
Oh, you have Doris as Doris, Barbara, and Ann.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate some of the changes you've made. They're a good step. But for the committee, I have an underlying concern. Because if we know in the past, we have rezoned property and the property was flipped and we lived with that and the horrors of it for a long, long time. And I'm talking about 6200 8th Avenue, but this could happen here too. If they get an increase in a zoning increase, this property could be flipped and a much worse building could be built.
Yeah, I would just address that briefly. And first of all, we appreciate the acknowledgement, Doris, with regards to the changes to the building. And, I mean, Issa is from the community. And so he was clear with us that, that he wasn't walking away without coming to some type of agreement. I'd also note that we have a range of clients, and a lot of these clients are developers and owners who really come from outside the community and don't really have ties and are basically there's an issue in terms of trust and the nature of the relationship. From all the conversations we've had with people in the community, particularly those who have decided and wanted to send letters in support, I know that Issa has a tremendous amount of support in the area and is not leaving anytime soon. So I would just like Issa just say to you, can you just discuss your intention in terms of the property and and how you feel about being able to move forward with this development?
No, it's a real concern, Doris. I appreciate that also, but I don't have any intentions on flipping the property. I'm in the community. I'm going to remain in the community. Neighborhood is important to me. Neighbors are important to me. Reputation is important to me. So I'm not one to just flip and then remain in the same neighborhood. So I'm here to stay. I'm not looking to flip it at all. And this is a project that I intend to keep and maintain for long periods of time, well into my grandfatherhood.
Dotage.
Noted.
Thank you, Issa. Ann?
Ann?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge that the changes were speedily done and have a lot of sensitivity about them with the light well. And I don't think the having a longer building is really any kind of disadvantage. But I remain feeling that the 8 feet is out of character with the neighborhood and is a bad direction overall. So that objection remains for me.
And you mentioned 8 feet. Is we
I mean, 8 stories.
8 stories?
8 stories, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara?
I'm just, um, I looked at the specifics of the plan, and the apartments seem very, very small for the amount of money that the owner proposes to charge. I wonder how vital or how viable that's going to be in terms of renting these apartments. Furthermore, where is the garage? Where is the entrance to the garage?
In this view,
Yes,
you can see the
George,
garage
why
on
don't
the
you,
bottom
George,
right
why don't
hand.
you, George, just, you could start with the entrance of the garage and then I can just address the rental price.
Yeah, in that view here in the 3D view. So if you're facing the building, the garage entrance is on the right-hand side.
And the entrance is alongside of it.
I'm sorry?
The entrance to the building.
The entrance of the building is on the left side of the building, the left corner.
Okay.
And then you have some windows in the middle.
Right.
Yeah, and just to discuss, because there was some confusion last time, and I think we were partially responsible with regards to the rental prices. So there's what's called an RER or racial equity report that's issued for environmental purposes in conjunction with every rezoning application, which discusses rents in the area and basically what that does in terms of gentrification and socioeconomic effect. The actual rents which ISA would be charging for the market rate units here are actually far less than what those RER stated rents are. It's kind of like when city planning does an environmental review, they do what's called a worst case scenario, and they look at the maximum in terms of height, number of units, etc. But the development plan that the developer actually comes in with is, always less than that. It's just the worst case scenario. That's what it is. Similarly, here in terms of the proposed rents, the rents are, as far as ISA's projections, are far less than what was reported in the RER, and I think that those kind of align with the nature of the units that'll be here, the sizing, and what he's going to be able to charge for that. So they're basically estimated and comparable to what's on the market right now. So I think I understand the concern, but I think that when the actuality is that the rents will be far less.
But you don't have specific rents, do you? At this
Well,
time? I mean,
we
I
have
know what I'm looking at in the RER in front of me, and that's what has many people concerned. I know you just
Sure.
addressed that, so.
So the market rate rents from ISA's pro forma, there's a couple things to note. He's going to be tied into the rents for the affordable units given HPD and city plan guidelines. For the market rate units, the estimated rents were $13.95 for studios, $17.95 for one bedrooms, and $23.95 for two bedrooms. So considerably less than the RER rents that we're reporting.
Okay, and you did not mention anything though about the non-restricted
The market.
market rate.
No, those are the market rate ones.
Oh, those are on the market. Oh, I'm sorry.
Correct.
Okay.
Those are the market rate ones.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, and there's I apologize. I forgot we actually have a chart. So you can see the MIH units on the right. Those are depending on the income levels selected, 60% or 80%. Those would be the averages for those studios through two bedrooms. And then on the left is market rate units, which are comparables from the area, and that would be the intended approximate rents of the building.
Thank you for putting that information up.
Sure.
Steve?
Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm limiting this to the building envelope, and I think that there are a significant, it came back with significance changes that I think are much better than what we had originally. As far as the market rate and everything else of that nature, I'll leave that to everybody else, but I do think that it actually, the concessions were more than I expected. I just want to mention that. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Can I just ask, when ISA met with the residents, was any of this conveyed to them? The modifications?
Yes, we had a discussion with them last week. Isa and I met with them, and we were still in the process of working out the redesign. So we did not review plans with them at the time, but we discussed the changes. We didn't have a complete set of drawings.
Okay, and those are primarily the residents from the 5-story building?
Right.
Yes, yeah. We met with their board.
Okay. Regarding the building on the other side, the shorter one, I don't know, any changes on that side of the building? Because there are all the terraces that face your proposed building.
Yeah, I think I would note a couple of things, and Isa and George, feel free to add any details, as you wish. That side of the building is a little bit less problematic for two reasons. Just in terms of building design. The first is that given the existing R3X, you'd be able to build as of right to a height on that side that would basically impact that side of the building kind of anyway. But more importantly than that is that building, if you take a look at the balconies on that side of the building, they're set off from the lot line. I think the major concern in terms of the 5-story building was that we could build up to the lot line and basically be adjacent to that building. Whereas here, those balconies are not built to the lot line; they're built into a side yard, which would allow for light and air to get to those balconies from their lot line. So, George, I didn't know if there were any other comments in terms of the 3-story.
Yeah, we didn't make adjustments there. The building is set in from the property line, so the bigger concern was really that we were abutting the other side.
Okay, so if any building that goes up as of right on this particular lot, the people sitting on those terraces would still be looking at a brick wall.
Correct.
Okay.
Additionally, I did try to make contact, but those are rental units, and it seems like they have a lot of turnover where there's new tenants every several months. Spoke to the superintendent, but he doesn't have authority to bring people together, and he said he sent it over to the higher ups, but no response.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the committee?
Abraham? Abraham?
Yes. I'd like to thank the team. They did major significant change, and that's what we hope. I really appreciate it. Especially with the building next door. But George, I have a question. The separation between both buildings, you think it's not going to raise an issue between you and the existing building about 15, or what's the number, 15 or 20 feet or 10 feet? Under the
I'm
new
sorry,
zoning?
could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
The separation between buildings, between the building on the left side of,
The smaller building.
yeah,
The exact dimension, I don't have it in front of me. Give me a second to grab it. I think it's over 10. I think it's about 10 feet.
oh, it's 10 feet. And the zoning called for how much? Do you have an idea?
The zoning code separate.
Well, that's correct. The zoning between buildings, the separation between buildings. I think there is a
R6
section.
doesn't have a separation between
Oh,
building
R6,
code.
okay.
Sorry, but that's below R6, like but there's no separation between buildings. The
All right.
minimum side yard, if you're not required to provide a side yard, but if you do, it's 5 feet.
All right. I think most of the comments that we had last time, you guys address it. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. Any other committee members? Ralph?
I have one more
Yes,
question.
of course.
The courtyard, the new courtyard that you're putting in there, I think it's a good idea and it's a welcome change. I'm just concerned that, there's not really gonna be a lot of light that actually gets down into that courtyard for the neighboring building. So I'm wondering if anybody did a quick, shadow study or anything to see what the sunlight would actually be down there?
We did not do a shadow study yet. We made these changes pretty quickly. But the opening at the top is 30 feet by 30 feet. So it's pretty significant size. It's, if you see graphically compared to the size of the light well, a lot of older buildings have light wells, and this is a pretty large compared to a lot of the historic light wells.
George, what's the size of the residence building 460 light?
Is like just short of 20 feet deep, I believe. I'm sorry, front to back, and then like 10 in. Ours is the new zoning code requires a minimum of 800 square feet for light wells. That's a new requirement.
Thanks.
So at 20 and 10, theirs is more like 200 square feet.
It's much smaller. Ours is much larger. If you go to the plan side by side at the site plan, I think there's a little larger than that, but it's roughly that. So and ours is 800 square feet on the lower levels and then 900 at the top.
And how much taller is your building than the top of their building from their roof approximately?
If you go to we have a front view, if you want to flip to that,
Yeah.
Amanda, you want to go to the front view?
the rendering might be the best option. Thank you. Yeah, so we're more floors, but you can see that our where our setback starts, our sixth floor is kind of slightly a few feet higher than their roof, and then we're 20 feet up.
Yeah, I really think that it's gonna be in shadow, that courtyard, most of the time. Since you're so much taller.
The height still is concerning.
Yeah, so I have a concern about that, because it would be giving them some air, which is.
Yeah, I would also just note, I'm not, without, I mean, Issa, can you just address for a minute the conversation with the neighboring building? Because it seemed to me like that when these changes were suggested that they were actually supportive.
The idea was
Oh my.
their main concern was that the windows were going to get blocked and they weren't going to get enough light and air. And that being that was their major concern, it's the one focal point that we were looking at. They even suggested that George, if you can remind me.
Yeah, they actually suggested going taller in the meeting. Because they understood the balance of the square footage, right? We have a square footage goal that we're trying to be within, and they said if cutting out the light well required the building taller, they actually suggested that. But I think that we had an internal conversation afterwards, and everybody agreed that that was not the direction we were going to take at this time. That's why we pulled the building back in the rear, and we reduced the rear yard a little bit. So, but the discussion that we had was very much that they didn't want a brick wall slapped up against their building at the windows. So we did the separation and the light well, and we, at the meeting, I don't know if anyone is here, but at the meeting they were very very open to the idea.
So the neighbor actually saw the plan with the courtyard?
I'm sorry?
They saw the plan with the new courtyard?
Sorry, no, we discussed it. We were still working on the design when we met with them, so we didn't have finished plans.
Okay.
But these plans and all these changes were done pretty quick
Quickly.
since the last meeting.
Yeah.
All based on that meeting that we had with the residents and the board.
They are in attendance. Mm-hmm.
Fine.
And I believe one had there. Do you want to open it up to,
Yes, if we could.
okay, so, Terrence Summer, Terrence, you had your hand raised. I'm no, sorry, Nicholas. We'll go with you first. Nicholas. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to go for Steve first?
Yeah, if we could just go back to the committee first, please. Just Steve, I know you had your hand up before we.
Yes, I just wanted to ask if I'm looking at the frontal view of the building right now, and I'm looking at the roof. Do you? I might have missed this. Do you have any intention of doing any recreational roof, things, that kind of thing that you would put up there? I know that a lot of the newer buildings frequently do, but I haven't heard anything about that, I don't think.
I don't know if we're finalized on that. Issa, do you have a strong stance on it? We would either with the New York City code, we would have to use the roof for sustainable purposes or for a recreational roof deck. And it is very common on new buildings to use the recreational roof deck.
And what do you mean by sustainable?
Like solar panels
Solar panels or something of that nature,
or a green roof.
but some kind of recreational thing that would be open to all the residents?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what kind of things? What kind of things? Just give us an idea of something that you were thinking of.
I mean, it's just an open roof if somebody wanted to go up to the, you're saying for recreational purposes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
just an open roof space with some seating.
so, with some seating, and they can bring up a lounge chair or something of that nature.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, so open to public and um Nicholas, I'm sorry, Nicholas, you can unmute yourself now.
Hello. I
Oh,
think
hi, how are you? Yes.
yeah. So first and foremost, just to reiterate, we did have the meeting with George and Issa. It was very productive conversation. And we did talk about adding that light well. So, these initial plans, which are the first we're seeing of them, definitely seem to be a promising start in terms of our building. As we had said in the meeting, our C and D lines were the ones going to be most impacted. So it looks like from this proposed plan that is still, or is an improvement certainly from what it was before. Um, we had also raised the question regarding our cell tower, which is a source of income, and also a concern for radiation for your looks like sixth floor balcony, which would be right up against it. I don't know if you've had any time to think about that yet or not, but that's neither here nor there. With regard to the height, I think I won't deny that we did say higher would be better than deeper in that it would prevent us from having our E, F, and G lines start to be affected by the building. I do think that there are still concerns to be had for a building of that size, particularly on this block, and that's something for the community board to discuss. But in the conversation, we were sort of having the moment of assuming you get approved and assuming that you go forward. Yes, we would rather not go all the way back because then a lot of our other apartments start to go and we start to reach the point where there's a very large, very old tree back there, as we've mentioned a couple times, I think. So the further back they go, the more likely that tree comes down. But overall, I think for me, the changes look promising. I'd like to see it, closer up, uh, just so that I can take a better idea of it. I think the two questions that I had in terms of what was presented today, I was a little confused about the size of the light well because I think you said it was 30-foot square, but then you said only at the top floors, or is the top floor a
No.
bigger square?
Yeah, it's wider at the top floor, so
Okay.
it's 800 feet on the lower levels, and
Okay.
then it goes up to 900 feet square feet at the upper levels.
Okay, but the
So
biggest opening is 30 at the ninth floor level, or
yeah, it's give me 1 second. 30 uh 1 second, sorry. Um uh, 30 by 30, sorry, 30 by 30 and then 30 by 40.
okay, okay, that's
So
good.
I apologize. I said 800. It's 900 and then 1200. Sorry.
Yep, understood,
The
understood.
the smaller one is 30 by 30.
And now, so in the new plan here, will there be windows on all three sides there, or how is that looking? I get just because
That
we're
is
seeing it
correct.
top down.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have windows for units uh on the front and back of the light well.
Okay,
And then on the side is the corridors, but we
okay,
were gonna add a small window for the corridor, most likely.
okay. Yeah, I mean, so again, I think, we haven't had time to fully process it, but I think that this is a very, very strong start to the discussion, and I really did appreciate having the time to sit with Isa and George the other day to go over things. we do still have concerns about our foundation, but they both, indicated the steps that would be taken for proper assessments and surveying and foundation laying. Um, and then, of course, we do have also the concerns about the block in general. And as the board has said a few times with regard to the nature of the block and the nature of the traffic on the block. But I think for me, it's a very good first step. So I'm very happy to see it and happy to continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
George, I have a question. What wasn't the building pushed over 5 feet
Yeah.
off the
So,
property line?
yeah, and Nicholas, just to make sure, so we did add the light well, and
Yep.
sorry for the confusion. 800 is the minimum required by code. We put it at 900.
Okay.
And then we added in the back a 5-foot separation to the property line.
Right.
So
Yeah.
here, that back portion, we're offset a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's actually really great because when we spoke, I was under the impression that those windows were half windows, and they are actually full-size windows. So I spoke to some of our D-line unit members, and I got a few names as well, so that if we do have another meeting, we can have a D-line representative there as well, just to talk about it. But I do see that 5-foot space, so they can at least keep their air conditioners or things that they need there. So I do see that, and again, I do think it's a very good good step forward. As far as the overall height goes, I don't know shadow science either, so I can't say whether or not it provides enough light, but it certainly looks like it's going to at least provide air, which was our biggest concern. And again, the community board really has the biggest decision with regard to the overall height. So we trust you to make those decisions in view of the neighborhood, but I'm also happy to answer other questions that anyone on the board might have from the building perspective. And I know we have a couple other members of the board that were at the meeting here, so they may want to speak as well.
Yeah, there's another hand raised if you want.
Next.
Okay, Terrence Summer, Terrence, you should be able to unmute. Terrence, are you able to unmute?
It had me rejoin as a panelist, so he might be in the process of doing that.
Okay, he's coming in now. Okay, Terrence, you're here. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you can hear me now?
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay, thank you. Nick pretty much covered everything that I was, thinking as well. And I would say that I really appreciated the flexibility and willingness to compromise if the building is going to be the height that is expected by the people who are building it. I just want to add, though, that, and I've pointed this out before, is that an 8-story building just breaks the seal on the neighborhood. I don't see a building between 4th and 5th that's that height. I don't see a building between 5th and 6th that's that height. And it's deeply concerning to me that this sounds like a sea change in the neighborhood. If this building gets this height, then there will be other buildings coming up. We have 2 lots across the street that look like rental houses that could easily go, oh, wow, there's an 8-story building across the street. Let's build one for ourselves as well. And I've seen this happen in the last 2 neighborhoods I've lived in, which was Park Slope and Fort Greene. And I just led to overcrowding and congestion. So that's the side that kind of disturbs me, is that the nature of Bay Ridge as a neighborhood will be changed if this is allowed and the precedent is set and people can start developing on this scale. And I understand the need for the housing, and I appreciate that part of it. So I'm just raising that. But at the same time, I will say that if it is fait accompli and the building is thrown up at that size, I appreciated the flexibility with the design that the architect and ISA presented and conversed with us about.
Is there anyone else from the public?
People in here?
Anyone in the room?
I have questions.
Yes.
I'm sorry I came late, so I missed the first 15 minutes.
Okay.
But I do have a question about the extent and of the zoning change. Is it for this building lot only? Or is it for the entire area delineated by the orange dotted lines, which actually cuts across over to the Fifth Avenue frontage also? Is the zoning change being requested
Yeah.
just for this building lot? Or is it for several building lots in the area?
The three lots that you see bounded by the dotted line. If anyone from the.
The black dotted line, not the.
Yeah. I'm happy to address that, Stephanie.
So that's.
Okay, thank you.
So it includes the apartment building on the right and the medical building on the left, both of which will eventually be able to build taller buildings on that. Is that?
Well, not really. So when we propose a rezoning, first of all, why do we not propose just the lot? So you probably have heard of a concept of spot zoning, which basically is a rezoning which affects a parcel and is not part of called a well-considered plan, meaning, it's kind of an island within a sea of other zoning. The idea here is to allow for the R6A not merely to affect this lot, but basically to tie itself into the edge of the R6B district that's along Fifth Avenue. So we included these two lots. So the first thing you'll note is that because of where the dotted line lines up, you actually capture some of the rear of the lots along the avenue. Those are de minimis portions, and pursuant to zoning, they wouldn't be able to be rebuilt, or there'd be really no significant development that would be allowed there. It's really just amounts to, a few dozen square feet. The two lots around this lot, if you're looking at the red rectangle, which is Issa's lot, the left of that lot is the 5-story building, and that building is already built to R6A bulk. So the R6A bulk allows for up to a 3.9 FAR pursuant to City of Yes. That building is already built to a 3.6 FAR. So, as you can imagine from common sense, but also from the secret technical manual, no building is going to knock itself down and redevelop a building which is essentially the same bulk. The building to the right is built less, so it's built to closer to a 2 FAR. The issue there is that it's relatively new. It was built in 2000 and has a number of rent-regulated units. So, by and large, pursuant to the secret technical manual, particularly the building on the left, but also the building on the right, would not be considered to be soft sites and likely to be developed, which leaves Issa's building here as the only real building that's going to be affected by the rezoning.
But theoretically, it would be possible for the medical building to buy out the stabilized tenants and buy out the medical offices, tear itself down and build up something taller that goes to that height.
Yeah, they've got an existing floor area ratio that as I said, I have to check the numbers, but let's say it approaches a 2 FAR, maybe a little less. The proposal right now is for an R6A allowing up to a 3.9 FAR, but
That's twice as much.
Yeah, right. But you got to consider one thing, which is important, which is of that, approximately 25% to 30% would be affordable housing. And in the development community, that's kind of seen as somewhat of a wash. Those units are underpriced to market. And the whole reason that mandatory inclusionary housing was invented was to allow for the market rate units to kind of cross-pollinate and support the affordability units. So really, while you are dealing with a 3.9 FAR, if you're looking at 25 to 30% affordability, the actual market rate FAR goes down to a 2.6 or so, which I think is one of the reasons why in the environmental assessment statement, that's not a soft site. You really have to, as you can imagine, and being with a firm that does rezonings regularly, oftentimes you're rezoning from a 1 FAR to to a 6 FAR. And in those cases, it's everything's soft and they're all getting rebuilt. Something here where you have an existing building and you've got some additional rights being created, you really have to kind of drill down and see whether that's likely. So yes, in the future, could it happen? Of course, anyone in the city of New York, should they want to move forward with development. But as far as the likelihood here, it's not on current manual. Right? It's not really, it doesn't look like it would be redeveloped.
Would the existence of this 3 parcel area being rezoned give an incentive for other houses either on the same block or on the next block to also apply for special
Sure.
things?
So I think there's really 2 questions there, and I'll answer both of them, which is, are other buildings and other properties able to build and or able to apply? And then it's whether or not it's likely those will be granted. So this block, is a little bit unique in terms of its layout. The R7B here actually encroaches kind of, you can see there's a little jog of the R7B into the block. When we spoke to city planning, importantly, city planning could have said to us, and with the applicant could have dictated that the R6A go for the entirety of the block to the R7B, right? So you do have an opportunity here to spread that R6A zoning, and city planning said, you know what? We think that given the fact that this is closer to Fifth Avenue and the fact that there's already R7B on the other side, it's appropriate to stop where it is. So on this block, as you can see in all the decision-making factors that go into this, they didn't feel it was appropriate to push the applicant to rezone those 4 other lots. Are other people going to come in and ask for rezonings? I don't know. They can, but I will tell you that kind of each rezoning is judged on its merits and is judged in terms of existing development on the block and the appropriateness thereof. And so, this lot and this block has been zoned this way since the Bay Ridge rezoning. And you see all these other blocks in the area that have not been touched. I don't necessarily know if another block that doesn't have this encroachment of the R7B is going to be interesting to city planning, whether they would support that. Everyone, as a private applicant, you're allowed to make an application for anything you want. But, this community board would go through the same process, see whether or not the applicant, had merit and the application had merit, and make this decision at that time. But again, as far as just taking a look at this block alone, we didn't even and weren't even encouraged to continue down this block. So it's unlikely that someone else is going to come in and say, hey, rezone us as well.
But well, it seems to me that what you have is your lot, then you have to the west, you have a 5-story, and then further west, just outside of your western boundary, you have an empty lot owned by Ovencore Realty.
Yeah.
And that's a 9,260-foot lot. And what's to discourage them from having the special zoning area extended 1 more lot so that their empty lot can have an 8-story building?
I think it's that city planning's very cautious in this area. We've done other rezonings in CB10, and city planning has looked at those. And there was a very specific rationale to allow for that one building, the 5-story, to be included in this rezoning. And that's basically, it makes it a better rezoning. It kind of makes the argument for the rezoning because despite the fact that our building is going to 8 stories, or if approved would go to 8 stories, that building to the west of us is the same FAR plus or minus as our building. So that building is built to a 3.6. We're built to we proposed would be built to a 3.8. So, were we to go back to within 15 feet of the rear lot line, that would be our building. The only difference, of course, is that, they have a non-compliant rear yard. So right now you wouldn't be permitted to go to 15 feet to the rear lot line. And, we're choosing to end the building far short of the rear lot line. So, again, great reason to include that lot to the west of us. But, understanding the sensitivity in the area and how city planning operates, they just said to us at this point that, we should stop here and that would be it. We're making the building next to us, that existing 5-story, we're making them a complying building. The square footage they now have is legal and legitimate. If any of those applicants want to go into Department of Buildings and make changes to their units, they're able to do so a lot more easily than they would be able to do so if the rezoning remains R3X. It's kind of something we don't really drill down on, but the fact is it's advantageous to that building because now their square footage is all legal and complying. So again, I don't want to belabor the point, but basically, city planning thought this was appropriate for this specific spot at this time.
Have you
Thank you.
contacted the owner of the empty lot on the other side of the apartment building?
We-
to discuss
we-
the zoning changes?
Yeah, we haven't because we don't want any piece of that. We're thankful for the opportunity to come to the community board and with this application and with this applicant who honestly, we've seen how people respond to ISA. And this has been, having come here, as Steve could probably tell you, and Josephine, for decades now. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here for this applicant with this application. So we're happy with the rationale for this application. We don't want to go any further as far as the development is concerned or the zoning is concerned. And each application is judged on its own merit.
Thank you, Richard, for that excellent explanation. I just wanted to make clear to everyone that the lots before us are just these 3 lots. And as Richard has said, if any other soft site or any empty lot on Ovington Avenue, if their developers or owners were considering building with a rezoning, they would have to come before the community board. But at this time, we are just dealing with the 3 lots, particularly Lisa's lot. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to ask a question or make a comment?
I would like to make a comment. I'm kind of, that image of the rendering was on the angle, which looks incredibly flattering. So I think it juts out way front of the line of the building line. And I think that is so important. So for instance, St. Nicholas Home, when Bay Ridge Hospital was there, even though it's such a large building, it's set back so much you don't see it until it comes upon. That was incredibly strong to me, and you can't really see it properly with that image. Also, the parking, I know they have to have parking, but I'm thinking about that narrow block because I'm there all the time. We live around the corner, several of us are from 7201, we're owners and renters. She comes from a different block, mine's from 72nd. Unfortunately, the people around the block did not know about this, but we happened to have a board meeting on Saturday. So I brought some information, told some of the neighbors. We already had a problem with the high school and our wishes not being adhered to, that the majority of the people did not think was the right location for a high school. So this is problematic. But as somebody who volunteered to work on the zoning, when I hear somebody say, I'm from the neighborhood and you're willing to break our zoning by almost 3 times the amount permitted, which was done carefully crafted by volunteers to every single block of our neighborhood to try to find a balance between all our facilities, school, etc., and the neighbors, that is really much undermined. And I'm very upset about that. And I feel like this segment of the neighborhood is getting, I did it for the high schools, how many seats we have. We now have NYU has a hospital. The traffic and the congestion on this end of the neighborhood is absolutely crazy. And it keeps happening. And I just wish you would build within the zoning. To break the zoning is a very bad precedent to set. I don't care about the city of Yes. I feel like they have not respected neighborhoods. They told us to do the zoning we did, and they just overrode it. And I think that's wrong. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah, can I just make just a quick statement?
Of course.
And I appreciate that particularly because issues around density and such are always part of all of these conversations. But the one point I would make is that this is a site which is it's a development site, right? So next door to us on each side, you have built buildings, existing residents, rent regulated tenants and such in one building. And so, this site basically, let's just say for argument's sake that you're going to develop the site, right? What happens next? I would just kind of just put out there for a minute that a proposal allowing for the number of units that are the residential number of units that would be here, which is 35 to 40 units. Compare that just for a minute with an as of right building, because an as of right building is not merely a residential build here, but on a development site like this, which is unoccupied and which can basically house a building, you're able to put a community facility building. You can put a doctor's office if you want to. A doctor's office here, as of right, you're building 7,000 square feet of doctor's offices. I don't have to tell anyone that, given the nature of patient treatment rooms and such. You'd easily be able to fit 25 individual patient rooms here. It's like when Max Meltzer was on the phone with us from Langen, looked at the traffic and such, that situation that presents is actually, I would imagine, worse for the area for two reasons. The first is that with residential units like you have here, as the studies show, people leave and come home, generally speaking, at fixed times. So you're leaving in the mornings and you're coming back in the evenings. And it's generally, while of course there's variation depending on people's schedules, it's kind of what you see, what you get. A medical facility here, which again, as of right, ISA, in a different world, goes into Department of Buildings and files plans as of right to do that without any necessary approvals in terms of rezoning, basically creates a medical office here with over 25 patient rooms. And as you can imagine, even being generous and saying that those patients were going to be there for an hour would create, traffic throughout the day. So I get it. And I understand with regards to all the feelings around, issues that have nothing to do with us. City of Yes, obviously a much bigger issue. But just on this site alone, when you take a look at the actual use and what could happen, it's actually just not that bad in terms of what you could put there.
I have to respond, I'm sorry. With all due respect, I'm born on that block, my church is on that block, I've worked on that block, I live around the corner from the block.
And the traffic.
And we
is
know the traffic,
horrendous.
and we know about medical facilities, and we fought those also. But our neighborhood is so diverse, economically, age-wise, ethnically. We have mixed housing stock now, you are tipping the balance. There are more schools, more seats than we need for our kids. There's more medical facilities than we need, and we are very, very gracious. We have more supportive housing, but they're still trying to give us a homeless shelter. But we have more supportive housing than any neighborhood for seniors, for development delayed, because it comes from the ground up. So when you tell me we could have something worse, why not just build within the zoning? That's all we're asking. Build within the zoning.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but
I live around the
please don't
corner.
talk us out of how we feel.
I feel the same way Vicky does. I live right around the corner. People are already talking about selling their homes.
Our friend sold her house. She
Yes,
moved
we
out
sold the house.
after the high school.
I lived there 45 years. I lived in Bay Ridge 55 years. It is a disgrace what is happening now. And it's being permitted. It's unreal.
Hold on a second. We've got committee, is Barbara?
Barbara Gurmack, yeah.
I need to go back to the committee.
I just have a few more points to make about the size of the building, the size of the rooms. Where on the plan is the elevator and the interior staircase?
George, can you address that?
Yeah, if you look at the plans, they're next to the courtyard. So because we added the courtyard space, it leaves a very skinny section of the building in the middle. So there in the middle, you see the stairs and the elevator, and in the middle portion.
Right.
To the
but all
right
of
hand
that's-
side of the light well.
Right. But all of that is decreasing the size of the apartments. And they're tiny as it is.
I mean, we're working within the square footage that we have. In new buildings, the apartment sizes are, generally in the range of a lot of new developments in New York City.
Okay, yeah, Terrence?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. You mentioned traffic in the morning, people going to work and coming back for work, but you forgot about school dismissal. You forgot about buses coming in, especially for the District 75 building, where students can be bused from many areas in the city to go to that particular high school if they want to. So just remember that aspect of traffic from 2:30 to after school programs at 5 o'clock. There's going to be a lot of traffic coming in from that period of time as well.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Committee have any other comments or questions?
No? Oh, Anne, I'm sorry, Anne.
Anne?
Oh, Anne, you're on mute.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that the change in the scheme shows sensitivity and flexibility, all of which benefit the immediate neighbors, and that's great. But as a committee, I think we need to do what we've always done, protect the essence of the community. and not be in favor of anything more than 6 stories.
No other comments from the committee? Okay. Have to wait until another meeting. Committee, would you be willing to think this over and then reconvene next week so that we can come to a recommendation?
Yes.
I can't see everyone. so-
Yeah, you know, you know what, I'm sorry, Richard, I'm gonna, stop the share so we could see everyone.
Sure.
Um, okay, great. It's so much easier to see everyone this way. Okay, we're back.
There's so many points to consider here, and we all understand the need for development, but we are also very concerned, one about the bulk or the height of this building, the traffic, my concern that the high school, of course, in a way crowds out private development here, but this is a reality. And I certainly would like a little bit of time to sit with this, the information, especially since the modifications were only delivered this evening, which I understand it was great
lot.
alacrity, but if the committee is willing to then reconvene next week, we can come to a recommendation and a motion.
I agree.
Okay.
That's good.
Would we be able to get this presentation to look at it a little more closely? Is that possible?
Yeah. Richard?
Richard,
Oh, yeah, we'll send it along. We're happy to do that.
Yeah, because we're seeing it for the first time. So it would be
Yes.
great to be able to digest it.
I see floor plan of the basement. Does the garage extend underneath that courtyard? Is that courtyard going to be able to have plantings, trees, bushes? Or is that courtyard, the 30 by 30 courtyard, going to be cement?
Are those available on the plan?
So we haven't proposed anything on that, but that courtyard is over the ramp to the garage. But we haven't at this time proposed anything on the courtyard.
They wouldn't be able to support a tree.
I mean, we could design it to support a tree if we wanted to, but I don't. We're not planning to do that.
Okay, at this time, I just wanted to stay focused on the actual plans and moving forward. So Richard, thank you. If you're able to please share that presentation with us, that would be wonderful. Then the committee is in agreement. We'll receive the information and
review it.
and then get back together next week. We'll have that date right away.
Chair, would the intention be that the applicant would be at that as well, or no?
All of our meetings are open.
I mean, the meetings, of course, are public, and so.
Oh, I just didn't know whether or not you want us to present or answer questions on that.
It doesn't hurt to have them.
We'll be there.
Well, also in reviewing this, if there are any questions maybe that
Yes,
come up with
that's
committee members and we want to share them, of course,
Sure.
it's always helpful to have.
Yes.
Okay, Josephine, we'll take our cues from you. You can just let us know about attendance and we're happy to come.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much,
you very
Richard.
much, Richard.
All right, you bet.
Bye, Richard.
Bye, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate
care.
it.
Of course.
Before I let the committee go, just a quick note regarding your landmarking lists.
Oh,
Please
yes.
don't, we have a full plate. So if you, not quite at your leisure, but as you complete, if you were to, please send them to Josephine and then I can review them over the summer.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll get my work done. I will get it done.
Okay, all right, there's a little static, but I just wanted to thank Lisa and Richard, George, and the rest of the team. Thank you very much for presenting this evening. And to the committee, thank you very much for your input. And we will.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.